patch 14.1 because it was really too big. And I'm going to be blunt with you. Half the item notes were incorrect. Half the patch notes were horribly wrong. It was, I don't want to say unprofessional, but it was very, very, very not well done. Like half of everything they did was just wrong, and it would have been pointless to do a patch note on it to begin with. Yeah, it was just really bad. But we have a hotfix here, patch 14.1a. This is a hotfix that has now gone live, and we're going to be going over that. So this has been live as of January 12th. So in all regions, this should now be live. Okay. Okay. So first up, we have Corky. Let's read through it because there's a good number of changes here. But there's not enough where it's too much. I can go over some of these. Okay. Corky is one marksman that lost some power due to Trinity Force's changes, and while it's still his best item, we'd like to get him back up to snuff and get him an ace machine. While doing this, we'd like to close the gap between bot and mid as well in order to open him up to players who pick marksman more frequently. Base attack damage up by 2, R damage up by early game AD. So it seems their intent here, if I'm reading into these notes, and I do tend to be able to read into the mind of a rioter, okay? Their intent here is to buff up his early game a bit, giving him more base attack damage, which then affects the Trinity procs. And in addition to that, by buffing the early game AD ratio on his ultimate, this helps bot laners, because bot laners tend to be the people who, don't have level 11, then level 16, but they also still tend to have items. So by giving him that higher AD ratio on his ult earlier in the game, this should help out bot lane. Mid lane as well, obviously, by giving him bigger power spikes, but it will definitely be able to help him out bot lane. Okay. So, Ezreal, Trinity Force lost a lot of power for range users last patch, but seems to be in a good spot for melee users. As such, we're not changing Ezreal's core item in Trinity Force, but he still needs more power from somewhere. These changes could add some interest to his laning phase by letting him be more aggressive with W and E combos. Okay, so his W cooldown is going down from 12 to 8, which is a bit odd. I'm not going to lie to you, because one of the problems here is because his Q reduces his W cooldown. He might end up in a world where he's literally just doing W, Q, Q, W, Q, Q, W. And I guess that could make him exciting, but let's be blunt. I don't think Ezreal is like... I think Ezreal is a champion Riot should be a bit cautious about, particularly about doing like massive buffs, like a 4-second reduction to his W cooldown. Because, let's be blunt here, Ezreal as a champion tends to always find weird, janky item builds and then outperform where everyone thought he was going to be. Ezreal has been overpowered for quite some time. And, maybe should have given it at least a week here, honestly. Unfortunately, Ezreal seems to be in that position of like, he seems to be in that position like where Yasuo is, where, he gets hotfixed if he's not good for a day, right? So the W cooldown is reduced, the E mana cost is reduced. Now, E is his flash, and W is his damage, where he goes shing shong when he procs it, right? So his W damage is the same, his E damage is the same, but his W cooldown massively reduced, his E mana cost reduced. Okay. Why? While we're cautious about pro play, we want to move Why into a better spot for those that are picking him, as well as their teammates. To help him out, we're adding some gold and level scaling in addition to making his ultimate more reliable without CC setup. Okay, so his health growth is up by 5. His QQ damage is up by 5% AP ratio, which is odd because I thought that ability was already a bit nutty. His EQ, EW, and EE damage are up by a base 50, 10 to 50, and then his ultimate gets more missile width, making it easier to hit. Okay, I'm not sure about this one. I'm going to be blunt. I think doing this many buffs all at the same time is a bit sketchy, particularly with pro play happening. I think what they should have done, because isn't pro play starting tomorrow on this patch? It's literally starting tomorrow on this patch. right? So maybe they should have waited literally a single day, and then after waiting one day, they could have seen if teams were picking him in pro play or not, you know? It just seems weird that, like, they literally have 24 hours to wait, and they're like, nah. Okay. Lux. With these changes, we're looking to give Lux a bit more survivability and defensive ability. Okay, so Lux, her damage is being totally unaffected, but her base health is going up by 20. Her base armor is going up by 2. Her attack speed growth is going from 2 to 3%, and she's getting a higher AP ratio on her shield. Lux is not getting any more damage whatsoever, but she is getting more ability to not die. And she will not be dying. Okay. Neferi is another champion that got the short end of the stick with the item changes, so we're throwing this doggo a bone. Base movement speed is up by 5. This puts her only 5 below the average for melee. Melee average is 345. She's 340. So instead of being much slower than melee champions, she will now be only a tiny bit slower than melee champions. Packmate damage is going... this is a revert. I remember this is a revert of a nerf on her packmates they did earlier. So it's going up by 1 to 5 base damage. Not an AD ratio buff, but base damage buff. Then her passive cooldown is going down... you can see here in the formulaic math, if you're a Neferi player, this is important to you. Instead of the passive cooldown going down at level 1, 6, 11, and 16, so only on your ult cooldowns, or your ult ranks, it now goes down on 1, 6, then 9, then 12, then 15. So the 15-second cooldown now comes in at level 12 instead of level 15. The 20-second cooldown now comes in at level 9 instead of level 11. And then at level 15, it goes all the way down to 10-second cooldown, whereas it used to only go down to 15 seconds cooldown. So Neferi's cooldown on her passive is going to be a bit lower after the early game. Okay. Now, I should say at level 9 and above, it'll start being lower than it used to be. Okay. Zach lost a lot of power from not having access to demonic and radiant virtue, in addition to all his builds getting affected by the loss of ability haste across the board. We're adjusting his cooldowns in order to compensate. Zach is bad. He's like really bad. He's like troll tier bad. He's like legitimately straight up one of the worst champions in the game right now. And I don't say that lightly. I had a Zach on my team and I thought, oh my God, he was so useless. Okay. So the passive heal is going up. Instead of 4 to 7%, it'll be 5 to 8%. I like that change a whole lot, to be honest, because I think one thing that Riot has not done in the past is those older champions who used to heal a lot or shield a lot or whatever, they never really got power creeped in like the last 10 years. And so like if you guys remember back in like season 3, season 4, season 5, Zach, right? It was pretty common to see Zach like just dead ass out heal people, just like through clever play, CC, and kiting. He would actually just out heal people. He has not done that in such a long time, and I don't think this change is going to allow him to do that. But I think at the very least, this like gets him closer to being able to do that. And to be honest, I do think that's a good thing. It's a good thing that Zach can heal more, because I like funny Zach out heals. I like it when Zach is tanky. It makes him more enjoyable to play. It makes him more unique from other tanks, right? Because like other tanks, they tank. Zach heals a lot. That's his thing. He heals a lot, right? He builds really tanky and he does a lot of damage and he heals a lot and he CCs a lot. What's his weakness? He doesn't really have the highest sustained damage. He has some sustained damage, but it mostly comes down to the fact that he doesn't die. His sustained damage is very consistent, though. It's percent health magic damage. So, like, it's hard to reduce because MR is still weaker. And health, like, you can't build health to reduce it either, right? So, like, he's got... So anyway, yeah. His E cooldown is going down from 24 to 12 to 22 to 10. His R cooldown is going down from 130 to 100 to 120 to 90. So, basically, his R cooldown will be more normal now. It'll just be in par with other ultimates. And his E cooldown is going down... I think this now means that Darius is the last of those like weird melee champions, Zac, Mord, and Darius. all had 24 to 12 on their cooldowns. Now Mord's is lower and Zach's is lower, and I think Darius's is still actually higher. So this now means that Darius is probably overall, yeah, his cooldown is still 24 to 14. Darius is not doing good now, by the way. There's some changes coming in later that'll probably help him. Zed, will it help him enough to be viable? I don't know, but we'll talk about it. Zed, okay. With the loss of his Hydra caster build, Zed's in dire need. Sorry, Zed's in a little... Oh my god. Zed's in need of a little help to strike terror into the hearts of his opponents. His W cooldown is going down by a little bit. Instead of 20 to 17, it's going down to 20 to 16. His E damage is going up by 20 at max rank. And his ultimate pop damage is going from 65% AD base damage to 100% AD base damage. So his ultimate will be more usable, particularly in the early game. Before it like has much scaling, it'll do a good chunk more damage. Champion nerves. Aphelios was a huge winner of patch 14.1. It's not just from the lethality from his E getting stronger, is even his QW max win rate is climbed substantially. Thus, we're bringing Aphelios down to size. He has the highest total attack damage of any ADC by a wide margin due to how much he gets from his passive. So bringing it down a bit. Okay. His passive attack damage growth is going from 3 to 2.3. They're noting he still gets bonus AD from his passive. Basically, Aphelios did too much damage. In combination with having lethality and having high base damage, Aphelios just did a lot of damage. Okay. Fizz has been getting a bit too much fun with the new item changes, so we need to take his damage down a notch. We're targeting the AP ratios on his Q and W while preserving the ratio on his E, since there's meaningful risk to using it aggressively. Okay, the problem with Fizz that I don't think Riot wants to admit, Lichbane is really, really, really overpowered right now. Pretty much every champion where Storm Surge was overpowered, Lichbane was actually more overpowered. Storm Surge seems to be like getting a lot of attention, and it's getting nerfed later on here. But to be honest, it's a combination of Storm Surge and Lichbane both being overpowered and both being very buildable on practically every burst AP champion to where they're just one-shotting people. And I've literally been seeing Fizz run around, Echo run around, Gragas run around, and just dead-ass one-shot people. Literally just chunk, and then Storm Surge proc, they're dead. So Q damage is losing 5% AP ratio. W active is losing 10% AP ratio. So Fizz will do 15% less AP ratio on his bursts, which isn't going to be amazing, but it will add up a little bit. I think a lot of people don't notice how much damage mages are doing right now. Gwen, cutting down Gwen's auto attack scaling to account for the new item system. So Gwen, instead of getting 1% more passive damage per... So it was 0.8% per 100 AP. Now it's 0.65% per 100 AP. So Gwen will be doing less percent health damage, which then means that she heals less because she's doing less percent health damage. That affects her Q and her auto attacks and her ultimate. I'm not sure why they say her auto scaling, because unless I'm crazy, which some say I am crazy. I was crazy. But, yeah, unless I'm crazy here, Snip applies 1,000 cuts. Yeah, it says right here on the wiki. And her ultimate applies 1,000 cuts, right? Yeah. So... they say they're nerfing her auto attack scaling, but they're just nerfing her entire kit. Her Q and her ultimate and her passive are all going to be doing less percent health damage. That's probably good for game health. She kind of just did too much. It was very obvious that she did too much. Nothing else to say. It was particularly impossible to play a tank into her. She's always been a weird anti-tank, and I don't really... Like, mage champions by default already beat tanks, so I'm not sure why they, like, double down on that and make Mord and Gwen, like, anti-tank mages, because now it's like, they're anti-tanks. Like, it's just great. Good luck ever playing a tank into them. Have fun with that. Kale, okay. With more AP and access to the new Ginsos and Kraken, Kale doesn't need much AP to attack speed conversion from her passive anymore. So instead of 1% more attack speed per 100 AP, she now gets 0.5% more. So at, let's say, hypothetically, 400 AP, that'd be 4% more per stack, stacking 5 times. She would lose 10% attack speed. Not really the biggest deal, losing 10% attack speed at 400 AP. So, not really actually that big a deal. AD LeBlanc has made her return. Why not meme it? Make a meme. The one time they could do a funny meme, I swear, the one time they could have made this funny, they didn't make it funny. Somehow, AD LeBlanc returned. Oh, and while the build doesn't appear to be strictly stronger than AP LeBlanc for most players, she's still performing too well in this build. She's also gotten a bit weaker on her AP build, so we'd like to return some power there in exchange. Attack speed ratio 0.625 to 0.4. That means she now scales as if her base attack speed is 0.4 instead of 0.625. So attack speed items will now be worth significantly less on her. Her attack speed growth is coming up to compensate, so she gets the same amount of attack speed per level. Her attack damage growth is going down, and then she's getting more AP ratios on her Q and her E. I do believe this now means that if LeBlanc procs her Q and E on you, you now die, go to heaven, and die again. Yes, this now means her Q has a 1.25% AP ratio, and her E now has a 1.2 AP ratio. Meaning, and I'm not exaggerating this, if LeBlanc hits a QE without even hitting her W, it now hits as hard as Fizz's entire combo minus his ultimate. No, wait, it hits much harder. Wait, yeah, no, it hits much harder. Now that I'm thinking about it. Right? Doesn't it? Am I crazy? Hold on, I need to check this up because I'm like... His E is a 0.9, so 0.9, 0.9, 1.8. It's 1.8, but LeBlanc gets 2.55. No, 2.45. So LeBlanc is 245% AP on only her QE, whereas Fizz is 1.8 on his QW and E. So yes, LeBlanc now out damages. I'm fairly certain she is literally the highest damage champion in the entire game. I don't think even Syndra and her ultimate can outdamage LeBlanc anymore. Okay. Sinch has hit the ground running and is performing extremely well this patch and needs to be tuned down a bit. We're opting to reduce the AP ratio on his Q as it's quite high and contributing to too much damage. I think they mean far too much damage. And let's just say it's contributing to too much damage, which is just weird English. We're opting to reduce the AP ratio on this Q as it's quite high and contributing far too much damage. It should be far too much damage. It shouldn't be contributing to too much damage. I mean, it makes sense. It's technically correct. It just sounds weird. Okay. Q total damage is going down from a 90% AP ratio to an 80% AP ratio. Is this a nerf Singe needs? Probably not. He's still going to be very, very overpowered. I can tell because his win rate is absolutely nutty. Gems are truly, truly outrageous, and so is Tarek right now. Since new and more affordable items are available in the support tank space, Tarek, as an armor scaling champion that has more access to cheap and affordable armor than he did in previous season, has some room to rely less on his armor growth. Armor bonus from 4.6 to 4.3, so the amount of armor he gets per level is going down, and his W bonus armor is going from 10 to 14 to 9 to 13. So basically, Tarek will have less armor and less percent bonus armor. So Tarek just nerfed. Okay. Teemo is getting nerfed. Teemo should be nerfed even harder. I don't care. If Teemo's overpowered, they should nerf him. If he's underpowered, they should nerf him. If he's pickable, they should nerf him. If he can play the game, they should nerf him. If anyone can even select the champion, they should nerf him. Blah, blah, blah. Teemo's OP. I don't care about your reasoning. His Q AP ratio is going from 80% to 70%. His ultimate AP ratio is going from 55% to 50%. So Teemo just giga broken. The problem is that weird ultimate dot item they made does not seem to, like, I don't know what they were thinking, but it's clearly going to be overpowered on champions with spam ults like Teemo. Okay. Essence Reaver. Essence Reaver has had a slow start finding users who are giving it a little buff to help make this item more appealing to anyone browsing the shopkeeper's wares. The base AD ratio on it is going from 130% to 140%, so 10 more percent of your base AD and damage, and the gold cost is going down by 100. Heartsteel, instead of giving it ability haste, so tanks that first item Heartsteel can actually play the game, they're just increasing its health. Heartsteel isn't performing well, even on its best users, when picked up as a first item. More health should help it be a bit more immediate impact and also help to scale it a bit faster. Heartsteel sucks. It's like legitimately bad. I don't think Riot realized that taking a niche item and removing 20 ability haste from it, as well as nerfing its scaling, wow, you took like 1,000 golden stats away from the item. You think it might be underpowered? So it took like 1,000 gold away from it, and now they're giving it 100 gold. Sorry, no, 100 health, which is worth about 300 gold. It's a start, but like, goddamn, Riot, like, if an opposing tank goes Heartsteel, all you do is get some percent health damage and you spam into them because they have no ability haste. They're like, I've used my abilities, and they stand there and they go grr, 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 and then they just go, well, shoot, and then they don't do anything. Hubris is weak, but the statue is cool. Or anyway, we're giving it some additional power that should help players convert kills into more leads, but also that statue. Okay, so AD per statue rank, instead of 10 with 1 per statue rank, it's now 15 plus 2 per statue rank. And the eminence duration is going from 60 to 90. So you can stack up the statue much better. And if you space it out, you could maybe stack it up a bit more in the early game as well, I guess. Profane Hydra was a little bit underpowered. I noticed this. It was kind of hard to actually do a Profane Hydra build because it was just kind of weak. The total cost is going down from 3,400 to 3,300. The damage on the active is going from 80% to 100%. And then the damage on the execute is going from, right now, if they're below 30% health, well, right now is when it's buffed, but it used to do 120% damage against people below 30%. Now it does 150% damage on people below 50%. So, that is quite significant and will probably contribute a lot to people dying. Ravenous Hydra sucked. They removed, once again, they did this weird thing. Riot seems to do this weird thing right now where they giga nerf the hell out of a champion. Not a champion, an item, and then they're like shocked when it's underpowered. You'll notice a lot of bruiser items are being buffed here. Shocking, I know. Bruiser and tank items. So Ravenous Hydra lost a gajillion gold. So its lifesteal is going from 10 to 12%. Then the cast time is being affected by attack speed. So the problem is this item sucks because it lost like 1,000 gold in stats. And it, like, they said they were nerfing mythics, but Ravenous Hydra wasn't even a mythic. So like, Ravenous Hydra just randomly as hell, they just dunked on it. They just, good dunk. So its lifesteal went up by 2%. The cast time is not affected by attack speed. Is this going to make it good? I'm going to be honest. I don't know. It's like, it's weird because there's some champions that have to build Ravenous Hydra. So you will see some champions using it no matter what. Like, no matter what, some champions will use this item. Fiora will use this item. Camille will use this item. They have no choice. Okay. Stridebreaker, wow. Once again, they removed like 1,000 gold from Stridebreaker. And now it's really bad. Shocking. Crazy. So Stridebreaker's attack damage is going from 50 to 55. Its attack speed is going from 20 to 25. I'm going to be honest. It's still bad. It gives no ability haste. Its active is on a 20-second cooldown. doesn't do damage, and got nerfed. I literally don't understand who at Riot thinks that this item is going to be built. This might actually be one of the weakest items in League of Legends history. Now that it has more damage, maybe people can stat stick it, but like, okay, let's compare here. Trinity has 10 less damage, more attack speed, 10 billion damage on hit, the same movement speed. But guys, Stridebreaker has an active. You get 35% movement speed decaying over 3 seconds. Wait, decaying over 3 seconds? That means over 3 seconds on average, it gives 17.5% movement speed. Let me clarify this to you. Trinity, which is already, it's an okay item, right? Trinity, you are giving up 10 damage and 7% attack speed to get 100 HP, lose 300 damage on hit late game, and get 17.5% movement speed over 3 seconds. On a 20-second cooldown. The only way I could see this item being good is if like its health went to 500 and it was just a giga health item. So then you could do like Stridebreaker into Frozen Heart maybe. But, oh, that's right. Trinity gives 20 ability haste as well. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Trinity has 20 ability haste over Stridebreaker. Oh my God. Dude, I don't understand it because there's literally no universe that exists in this or any reality. There is no universe where anyone looks at this item and builds it instead of Trinity. I don't know what they're thinking. It is so insanely underpowered. It's not like a little bit underpowered, I assure you. This item is like out of this world underpowered. Like, the item needs another 500-600 gold in stats. If I had to look this up, which I will, if I had to look this up, I almost promise you that this item... Yes. For an item that barely has an active... For an item that barely has an active. Remember, this does no damage and cannot be used unless you are already in range. So basically, if I'm already in range of an enemy, I can use Stridebreaker. Great. Now that I'm next to my enemy, I can get more movement speed to get next to an enemy. Wait, what? For an item that is basically just a glorified Giga Stat Stick, it is only 106% gold efficient. In other words, you would almost be better off just building good components, not completing the item, and moving on to a better item. Do you want movement speed? Screw it, sit on Phage. Then just move to a better item. I don't know, dude. Stridebreaker is just so... I know I'm sitting a lot here on this, but I cannot believe that this item launched being this bad. Now look, they gave it 175 more gold in attack damage. They gave it like 50 more gold in attack speed. So, it's like... They did give it like 250 gold in stats, right? Like, it's okay. But, right, do you realize... I'm not making this up, by the way. I'm not making this up. Here, I'm going to show you just to like try to hammer home. The core champions that should be using this item are champions like Darius. It is a 4% lower win rate. 4% lower win rate than Trinity. It's not that this item is bad. Okay? It's not that this item is bad. It is that it is laughably insanely underpowered. Trinity's base stats. For an item that has an extremely powerful Spellblade, Trinity's base stats are better than Stridebreaker. which is crazy when you think about it, right? I guess the entire point of this rant is, Riot, I beg. The item is insanely bad. Okay. Tiamat. The active is going from 60% AD to 75% AD, and the cast time is going from 0.25 to now affected by attack speed. Tiamat was one of the worst items in the game. That was really, 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 really bad to use. Again. Hextech Rocket Belt is going from 175 damage to 125 damage. So Rocket Belt now does 50 less damage. Storm Surge. Okay, Storm Surge was 120 to 260 damage. Now it's going to 90 to 195. So 30 less damage at level 1 and 65 less damage at level 18. The AP ratio is also going down both on melee and range. So Storm Surge was obviously really overpowered, but Riot is like ignoring just how overpowered Lichbane is. Here's the funny thing. A lot of people were being straight one-shot before the Storm Surge damage even procced. I saw that happen actually quite often. So, yeah. With the Mythic item system removal, Collector can now more easily be purchased first. Wow, the item that was being purchased first on half the goddamn 80 carry roster can now be purchased first? I didn't realize that they allowed you to purchase it first. When did they give you the ability? When did they stop you from purchasing it first? It's almost like you could always purchase it first. And then they double buffed it. So the item that was being purchased first all the time can now be purchased first. Wow, that's crazy. Thank you, Riot. Additionally, lethality items are quite good for ADCs at the moment, which makes for a pretty lethal combination. We're looking to increase the cost here, so the item will come online slightly later. Here, let me explain this to you guys. Riot is so stupid, they don't actually understand their own game. Let me actually be blunt on that. They literally don't understand their own game. They reduced the lethality of Collector from 18 to 16, which they thought was a nerf. But because they changed lethality formula, that was actually a buff. Let me explain. Lethality used to give 0.6, or I should say, it gave 60% to 100% of its value based on what level you were. So if you were level 9, you got 80% of your lethality, okay? So this means so long as you are below like level 15, Collector now gives you more lethality than it used to. Then Riot, because they're so stupid, they thought to themselves, oh man, now that we nerfed Collector, we should give it a compensation buff. So then they gave it 5 more damage. So let me be blunt. One of the best items in the game, which was being built all the time by many champions because it was so good, they buffed it. Then to compensate the fact that they buffed it, I shit you not, they buffed it again. I have nothing further to say here. Titanic Hydra. Okay, so the hardest nerfed item in the game goes to the class completely dominating the game. Mage. Actually, it was Bruisers. Somehow Titanic Hydra was the most broken item in the game. You could have fooled me. I don't think I saw a single Titanic user in the top 10 pick rate literally anywhere. I think people continue to point to Xin Xiao. So I went ahead and I looked at it. Xin Zhao was so insanely overpowered that he reached a 51% win rate. So in the top, there's not a Titanic user anywhere. In jungle, we have Xin. That's it. But okay, I mean, sure, it was overpowered because Master Yi, I guess. Who knows? The damage is down by 5. The health is down by 50. Giving this item an overall, what would that be? 225 gold nerf. Yep. Kind of sucks. Trailblazer is currently a bit too strong as a first item purchase for tank supports. We're increasing the cost and reducing the health, which should reduce the item's personal power and delay the spike a bit. Trailblazer cost up by 100, health down by 50. Okay. I don't really know. So basically, Trailblazer nerfed. I didn't really see it that much. I'm gonna be blunt. Okay. So then they have just more corrections to their patch notes. So these aren't even all the corrections that they needed to do. Like half the bruiser items are wrong. So when you ask me, why didn't you do a patch note video? Like I promise you I would have if like more than half the notes were correct. Like basically every bruiser item was listed improperly. So there's no way I really could even have done patch notes because they could have been like, this seems good, but maybe bad. But also they didn't even put the entire item into the patch note, and the part they did put in was wrong. So cool. Maybe it's cool. I don't know. So there's all the corrections. You can read through them. This is the hotfix. So thank you all for the patch 14.1a hotfix. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to all my YouTube members, Kick subscribers, Patreon people. If you support these videos and you want to know more, well, I mean, if you want to help me make money and not die, then you can join my Patreon. Patreon Hashinshin for people who say, wow, Hashinshin, I hope you don't die. Thank you all and have a great rest of your day.